Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a long and extensive game full of mysteries, and some of these things are not told to the player in the most direct way. Hopefully this video will clarify some of the bigger mysteries within the game, and if I've missed anything, please list them down in the comments below. These are based on my own interpretations of the story, but I believe most of them are correct. So Basim is an extremely profound character throughout the adventure. He helps both Sigrid and Eivor throughout the game, even training them in the ways of the Hidden Order, specifically the Assassin Brotherhood. We see that he is extremely gifted and kind-hearted, but this is all a ruse. We learn from a one-on-one interaction between Eivor and Basim that he did have a son, but he lost his son to someone that he trusted, and apparently he has moved on from this, but this was the entire focus of his journey. Later on in the game, we find that Basim has betrayed Sigrid and Eivor when they head to Norway and escape the machine, which led them to the dream world of Valhalla. We see that Basim says that Eivor killed his son, but this is all a mystery to Eivor, who doesn't understand what he's talking about. But during the Asgard mission, we see that Loki did have a son, Vanir, which is based on Norse mythology, and Havi, which Eivor takes control of, imprisoned Vanir as a way to prevent himself from dying at the hands of the wolf, which is the son of Loki. And this is what he's talking about specifically. Basim is the reincarnation of Loki, and he retains all the memories of Loki. It's not really made clear why he retained all the memories as opposed to Eivor and Sigrid, but my guess is that since Sigrid was exposed to a lot of issue, write-ins, and technology at the hands of Folke, even going through rampant torture, that she was able to reignite these memories of when he was Tyr. And my guess is that Basim, being part of the Hidden Ones, was exposed to so much issue write-in and pieces of Eden because that's what Bidek and his people were doing to prevent the Order from collecting these valuable items. In turn also reignited these memories, and he decided to just act on them. It makes a kind of sense because of what happened with Sigrid. We see a different process with Eivor. He's constantly contacted by Odin, which he is a relative of, who's trying to steer him under the path of what he followed. I know during the Asgard missions that we take control of Havi when we're Eivor, but in reality, Eivor is a relative of Odin and not Havi, because when we see the true ending in the hidden messages that are only obtained by completing all the animus anomalies, we see that Odin is missing his right eye, and while Eivor isn't missing any of his eyes, during the Asgard missions we see that Havi literally pulls out his right eye as a way to try and be reborn after the events of Ragnarok, thereby defying his fate. And since Odin is missing his eye during all the visions and during this cutscene, we can see that Eivor is a descendant to Odin and not Havi, and looks a lot like Eivor. That's why he's constantly present in these visions. He is a relative of Odin, and Odin is trying to steer him in that path. Unfortunately, it doesn't work, and during the game's ending, when Eivor eventually escapes the Valhalla machine, we see that he's able to put aside what Odin represented, which was knowledge and power, and put family and friends first instead, essentially rejecting those ideals that Odin stood for, as opposed to Basim, who succumbed to Loki's desires for revenge against Odin.
Wisdom, glory, power! What more do you need? Everything else.
Now, throughout the Assassin's Creed franchise, we learned that many of the gods that are being formed into the various religions throughout the game are actually real people. They were issued during the first civilization, and this is no different for the Norse mythology gods. During the game's hidden message ending, where we collect all the animus anomalies, we see that Odin, Thor, Freya, and Tyr all existed, and during the first civilization's exposure to the solar flares that wiped them out, they also interpret this as Ragnarok, at least for Norse mythology. And in order to essentially survive this, they underwent this secret procedure where they essentially dumped their genetic information into these types of fetuses, which allowed them to continue to live on. But we learned during the Asgard missions that all of this was planned, but Loki was left out of the loop. But during the hidden message engine, we see that Loki did find out about this, eventually broke into the facility and underwent the same procedure, which would result into Basim. So we see that Loki did wait for his revenge to take out against Odin. It only took centuries, and I mean, revenge is a hell of a thing. Waiting that long and dumping your genetic information into a fetus only for that person to take revenge on your behalf, on the ancestor of someone you hated, that is vindictive as hell. Now, I'm unable to get the game's true ending, but I did watch it on YouTube. This is because there's a game-breaking glitch that prevents you from giving all the Order medallions to Hatham. If you gave any of the Order medallions to Basim, you will be unable to give it to Hatham, and essentially you'll be locked out of the final game's true ending because of this major glitch that they still have not resolved and don't seem to want to resolve, because I did complain about it. But nevertheless, the issue with this is that in order to get the game's true ending, you need to get all these medallions, which exposes that King Alfred was actually the one who has been leaking information about the Order to the Hidden Ones and to Ivor because he believes they are against Christianity. His entire goal was to dismantle the Order from the inside, and he was successful. As for the reason why he betrayed the Order, it's because that he was born into it. He simply did not follow the same ideologies that the Order simply provided. His father did and his grandfather did. It's a lot like Desmond Miles' story, but unlike Desmond, who decided to eventually return to the Assassin Order based on his own beliefs and his own free will, you don't get that same choice with the Templar Order, so he was simply born into something he did not believe in and eventually wanted to destroy it. By doing this, you're able to gain the game's final ending, where you see Basim and Ivor exchanging looks to one another. This shows that Basim has forgiven Ivor for what happened when he was Loki. My guess is that he's accepted that he's his own person and thereby should not be hindered by the actions of his ancestors. Similar to how Ivor moved on from Odin, Basim moved on from Loki and has become his own person. Now, the game does a pretty good job of explaining this, but just in case someone doesn't understand, I'm going to go through it anyway. So at the end of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we learned that Alethea trained Layla in use of the Staff of Hermes, but she kind of went a little berserk when using it. During Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we do get the full story of this. Apparently, Basim has been luring Layla in order to free him from the machine that Sigrid and Ivor trapped him in. The reason behind this is not only to save the world, but save himself. So the machine that Desmond activates in Assassin's Creed 3 in order to save humanity from the solar winds also has an adverse effect. Not only did it essentially free Minerva, but it also created strong magnetic fields that are currently destroying the planet. It's causing massive climate shifts, earthquakes, everything is being destroyed. The problem is that the machine is necessary in order to save Earth because the solar winds are still happening, but it's basically being put into overdrive and it's causing this calamity. So Layla needs the Staff of Hermes healing properties in order to get into the machine, which is being operated at the same location where Ivor and Sigrid went, specifically in Norway, in order to protect her from the mass amounts of radiation. Her goal is not to turn off the machine, but simply lower its output so it's not destroying Earth's magnetic fields, but at the same time still has the barrier to protect them from the solar radiation. So when she heads inside and eventually becomes imprisoned by the machine, as per Basim's basic trickery, she loses the staff but then is trapped essentially by the machine, but she willingly allows herself to remain in the machine by the system's AI, which is known as the Reader, which is heavily implied to be the remaining consciousness of Desmond Miles. It looks just like him, speaks like him, so it's heavily inferred that this is what remains of Desmond Miles after he activated the machine. Layla, now not in possession of the staff because she drops it, essentially her body is being oversaturated with radiation, and the Reader tells her that she only would have seconds if she were to be freed from the machine. Despite the machine providing healing properties, it will kill her the second she removes herself from the machine. So she decides to remain within the machine to prevent another inevitable extinction event in the future, offering the reader a human perspective on the equation of trying to ensure that this does not happen. Basim in turn is able to free himself and immediately grabs the staff of Hermes to regenerate his body and protect himself from the radiation. Now the question would be that how has Basim's body survived for so long? My guess is that the machine keeps your body in a point of stasis. It operates like the staff of Hermes, preventing him from aging and thereby protecting him from the radiation. That's why he's able to let go of it when he gets to Rebecca and Sean's location. He doesn't need to constantly hold it like Cassandra or Alexios had to hold it in order to survive all those years. The machine kept him alive, and now his body has been fully regenerated. So what do I think the next Assassin's Creed game will focus on? Not in timeline, but in the modern era story. Even though I would love a Wild West Assassin's Creed game, like, it would be insane. But nevertheless, I strongly believe that the game will focus on Basim as he tries to take over the Assassin Order in hopes of resurrecting his fallen wife. While I still believe that Basim has moved past Loki's vendetta, he still loves his wife and did this all to be reunited with her. Unfortunately, her consciousness is still trapped in the staff of Hermes, which likely means he will need to find a body. Now, cloning does exist in the Assassin's Creed universe, and we've seen that Abstergo can clone sage bodies, which are basically issue bodies, so likely that's what he'll try and search for in hopes of bringing his wife back from the dead, and by doing this, take over the Assassin Order and make a deal with the Templars. While he has expressed deep hatred for the Templars in the core story of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it's also clear that he puts his own needs above everything else. And the only way to accomplish this is by having an army, and what better army than the army he was essentially trained into. He is one of the oldest assassin members. He has a great deal of knowledge about the Assassin Order, and even though he is very old, he still understands modern technology because he was trapped essentially in a supercomputer and has been talking to a super advanced AI for centuries. So I do believe that Basim will become one of the main anti-heroes. I mean, he can become a playable character, and that would be an interesting twist. I would love if they explore that, a character who's not really dedicated to neither the Templars or the Assassin, but still uses his own ideals to further his own goals. Something along the line of that. But I do think that this game does need a turn of direction. To me, the best example of that was Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where we had a character who eventually adapted the Assassin Order, but had his own ideals and focus. Edward Kenway is one of my favorite characters within this franchise. But tell me what you think the future of Assassin's Creed will look like. Do you have a specific timeline do you want to explore? What do you think the modern era will hold? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, consider leaving a like, subscribing. If you want to go the extra mile, there is a join button. I do have more people joining my channel, and I appreciate every single one of you, even if you took the time to watch it till the end. If you did, leave in the comments below your favorite assassin. I've already explained my favorite assassin is Edward Kenway, but that doesn't limit you. You can also have a Templar if you like Haytham Kenway or Shay Cormac. Those are also on the table, or any other of the characters. Leave in the comments below what your favorite assassin is, along with your own comment of what you believe the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise holds for us. So till next time, thanks for watching, and have a wonderful day.
Know how, but you did. Yet, I'm the one left standing. And now, I can take from you anything I want. Your memories, your skills, your secrets. They're all mine. And when I have them, I will put them to good use. To find my children and bring my family back together.